Welcome to Chapter 18. This chapter on the perfect and pluperfect verbs is a special chapter. This will be our last tense in Greek. We began with the present tense, something like I give. We moved to the future tense, I will give. Then we went to the aorist and imperfect, I was giving for the imperfect and I gave for the aorist. And now we'll be moving to the perfect tense, which is I have given, and the pluperfect, I had given. Now you realize, as in all the tenses, that the connection between time and tense is loose here, and also the translation have and had that we're going to use for this chapter is just for simple sentences here. Once you get into actual translation, there will be many more options that you can try. But let's at least first get some of the basics down here. So the perfect tense will be introduced in this chapter. So let's begin with the Lord's Prayer and a new addition there too. Say the first part of the Lord's Prayer with me.
Pater haimon ho en tois uranois hagias theto to onomasu. Altheto he basileia su genetheto to thelema su.
Continuing with the Lord's Prayer.
Hos en urano kai epiges. Ton ton, he mon ton, epiusion dos he min semeron.
And on the next screen we'll be learning a new addition to the Lord's Prayer. Now for this new section, let me just kind of chant it through so you can learn the rhythm that goes with it, and then we'll work on translating it. The first line is
Kai aphis he min, ta ophe lema ta he mon.
Now the kai is an, aphis is forgive, hemin, us.
Ophe lema ta,
debts, or some translations have it trespasses, but we'll take it as debts here. And then hemon, our debts. Try that line once again with me.
Kai aphis he min, ta ophe lema ta he mon.
And one more time.
Kai aphis he min, ta ophe lema ta he mon.
I'm going to put the second and third lines together because the beat goes together with the two of them. So the last two lines are
Hos kai he mesa feka mentoiso feletais he mon.
Hos means as, kai also, hemes, nominative form we, afekamen. You'll notice the kappa, alpha, medial ending there, that's going to be one of our perfects. We have forgiven
tois opheletais,
our debtors, and then hemon, our debtors. So that second and third line, say it with me if you would.
Hos kai he mesa feka mentoiso feletais hemon.
And one more time, second and third line.
Hos kai he mesa feka mentoiso feletais hemon.
And now let's put all three lines together.
Kai aphis he min, ta ophe lema ta he mon. Hos kai he mesa feka mentoiso feletais hemon.
And one more time.
Kai aphis he min, ta ophe lema ta he mon. Hos kai he mesa feka mentoiso feletais hemon.
We're really making progress on this Lord's Prayer. This chart is just built to introduce us to the various moods and also to show us the frequency. So far, we've worked with the present, future, imperfect, aorist, and now at this point finishing off the perfect and pluperfect. You'll notice that all the moods that we've worked with are the indicatives. And you'll notice on this chart how very frequent the indicative is. So once we've mastered these today, the indicatives will be basically down, and you can see we have a huge number of verbs that we can work with in the New Testament. The subjunctive and the imperative and the infinitive all kind of at about the same level, but very much in the shadow of the indicative here. So just want you to get a feel for the indicative as opposed to the subjunctive, the imperative, the infinitive. And you can see the chart's intuitively obvious to the casual observer. This next chart is just to model once again, we've given the numbers out before, the tenses and the frequency of the tenses. And you'll notice that the present tense and the aorist tense are two dominant tenses. The present tense is the foregrounding tense, the aorist tense is the background tense. The future and the imperfect about even, and then the perfect tense that we're going to be working on today, and the pluperfects are basically off the chart. There's so few of them. So largely the perfects, and the perfect is what Stanley Porter calls a front grounding tense. And so we have a background tense in the aorist, a foregrounding tense in the present, and a front grounding tense in the perfect. And so just a sense for how often in the frequency the various tenses are used. And you see that we know most of them already, and today we'll be finishing off these perfect and pluperfect tenses. There's also a future perfect. There's like one of them or just a handful of them in the New Testament, and so we're not going to really worry about that. So let's get in and figure out how to become perfect. Yeah, right. The Greek perfect may actually sometimes be translated as a simple past. You say, that sounds an awful lot like the aorist. Yeah, sometimes it's just translated into English, simple past. For example, I placed the book on the table. We will generally, in this class, which works with simple sentences out of context usually, we'll add the helping verb have or has. And so for perfect we would say, I have placed the book on the table. I gave will become, in the perfect, I have given. The perfect emphasizes continuing results, a state of affairs, and is used to foreground material. And so in the next slide we'll explore some of the possibilities with the connections between tense and time, which again will be very loose, action start and aspect, and we'll look at those various variations with the perfect tense. But for our purposes for this course, we'll be just translating it have or has with the verb. But it'll be good to know your options as you develop your translational skills later on. Now let's think about the tense-time connection, the action start aspect connection of the perfect. The perfect can be translated as a simple past. He blinded their eyes in John 12:40. Simple, almost like it translated like an aorist. It also can be translated as a present tense. In John 12:23, the translation is the hour is come, using a perfect verb to describe that. So again, here we see the connection between tense and time is almost non-existent here. It can be used as a simple past, as a present, and also as what we would call the perfect, completed action in the past with continuing results. Now, the action start, or how the action of the verb manifests itself, can manifest itself in a gnomic or omnitemporal or timeless way. So, for example, 1 John uses the perfect tense to describe this. No one has ever seen God. A timeless statement uses the perfect, front grounding that material. It can also be used in an iterative sense. In John chapter 16:33, it says, "These things I have spoken," meaning I've repeatedly spoken these things to you folks. So you can see the diversity of the perfect tense form, and depending on the context, you'll have these options available as far as translation. But for right now, simple sentences, we'll just use have and has. Now let's explore how you actually form the perfect, the morphology of the forms. The perfect uses the perfect stem of the verb, as opposed to what we've seen with the present stem and the aorist stems. It will provide us with two of the principal parts that we talked about in the last lesson. How it's formed? On the front end, instead of an augment, which is used in secondary tenses, this uses a reduplication on the front. And a reduplication, which is basically taking the initial consonant, doubling it up and sticking an epsilon in between the initial consonant and this reduplicated consonant in the front. It also, on the back end, adds a ka, a kappa alpha, almost exactly the same way that in the first aorist we added the sa, only now it will be ka in the perfect. So I call this the perfect K. Here's how luo actually gets built. On the front you've got a reduplication, the lambda epsilon, le, the root stem is lu, the perfect suffix is the ka, and then the second person plural, te, is added on the end for composite form of lelukate, you have loosed. So there are two indicators that tip you off to this tense form: the reduplication in the front and the perfect K. You can't miss these. All right, let's look at the reduplication patterns. Normally, when a word begins with a consonant initial letter, you just double the consonant and stick an epsilon between the two of them. So, for example, as we've seen, leluka. So you add the lambda epsilon on the front, leluka. Now, doubled consonants actually reduce. So if a verb begins with a phi, when you add the reduplication, you don't add another phi on the front, you add a p. So it's
phaneroo
becomes pephaneroka. And ki, when it's reduplicated, reduplicates with a kappa.
charizomai
Becomes
kekarismai.
And theta, when you go to reduplicate, uses a tau. So it's therapuo becomes tetherapumai. So basically your doubled consonants reduce when you add the reduplication. Not too difficult. Here are a few more reduplication patterns. If the verb begins with a vowel, the vowel is usually lengthened. So
Alpidzo,
I hope becomes alpica. And so the epsilon goes to an eta. Almost looks like an augment stuck on the front, but the kappa tells you no, this is a perfect, so it's a reduplication. Aiteo, I ask, becomes ateka. Again, the alpha iota diphthong on the front lengthens to an eta with an iota subscript. Now, consonant clusters and rho simply add an epsilon on the front. And this again can be tricky because the epsilon in the front will look like an augment, but it's actually part of this reduplication pattern. So, for example,
Ginosko.
the stem is gamma nu together. We've seen that before in the aorist. And so the perfect becomes agnoka. The epsilon added on front looks like an augment, but it's really part of the reduplication because of the consonantal cluster, the gamma nu. It does not reduplicate. It adds this epsilon in the front. The kappa tells you for sure this is a perfect. Now in compound verbs, the reduplications come between the preposition and the verb. Very similar placement to what we've seen in the aorist. So that's how you reduplicate perfectly. Now let's look at the other end of this perfect. How do you add the perfect kappa? Contract verbs are formed almost exactly like when we had the sa for the first aorist with the contract verbs. The vowel simply lengthens. So agapao becomes agapeka. And the eta, the alpha goes to an eta before the kappa ending is placed on. With tadatha, or the dentals, tau, delta, theta, they drop when the kappa is added. So, for example,
Alpidzo,
which is I hope, the stem is really
alpid,
with a delta at the end. When you add the kappa, the delta drops out and it becomes alpica. The delta drops out because it's a dental. Finally, I should tell you that there are some second perfects where the kappa drops out altogether. And so as we had second aorists, were just formed differently than first aorists, but mean the same thing. So there are going to be some second perfects which won't have the kappa. So that takes away one of our identifying indicators. So you got to be careful with these second perfects. But we'll master those. Let's check out the perfect active paradigm now. Leluka is I have loosed. First person singular. Notice the reduplication of le on the front and the perfect kappa on the back. Second person singular is lelukas. You can see the sigma ending kind of reminds you of the secondary endings, doesn't it? You have loosed. Leluka is he, she, it has loosed. So we have the s endings here. And then on the first person plural we have lelukamen. We have loosed. Second person plural, you plural have loosed, is lelukate. And then finally the third person plural is lelukasi. They have loosed. So you see it's the men to see endings that are used here. Kind of a combination of secondary endings with the third person plural going to the C. Moving to the perfect middle passive, you'll notice here that the middle and passive go together, as they did in the present and the imperfect. Lelumai is I have been loosed, and we'll use a passive translation here, even though the same form could be taken as a middle. So lelumai is I have been loosed. Lelusai is you have been loosed. Lelutai is he, she, it has been loosed. So you notice we've got the primary mai, sai, tai type of endings. Now we've not seen that second person sai endings before, but that's a standard second person singular primary ending. With the middle passive plural we have lelumetha, we have been loosed. Lelustha, you plural have been loosed. And leluntai, they have been loosed. So we have the metha, stha, entai endings, you'll notice that there's no mediating vowel here. It's just the upsilon stem vowel from the luo. So there's no mediating vowel here. The endings are tacked right on the end. A little different than we've seen before, where we've had those mediating omicron and epsilon bouncing back and forth. Now, if the middle passive form is taken as a middle, then basically we opt into our three ways to translate the middle. First, we translate it as an active, emphasizing the participation of the subject in the action of the verb. Or secondly, we take it for the benefit of the subject of the verb. So, for example, we have, I have loosed for myself. And then thirdly, and least likely, we can take it as a kind of a reciprocal, reflexive, I have loosed myself, where the subject does the action of the verb to themselves. But for right now, we'll just take it as a passive. So these are the middle passive perfects. All right, it's chant time once again, the perfect chant. So for our active, we have leluka, asa, mentasi. Kind of like we already know this, at least the endings, pretty much. Once again, the active form, leluka, asa, mentasi. And for the middle passive, we have lelumai, mai, sai, tai, metha, estha, entai. Notice there's no connecting vowel, so it makes it harder to say. Try that once again. Middle passive form, lelumai, mai, sai, tai, metha, estha, entai. Put it all together now. Leluka, asa, mentasi. Lelumai, mai, sai, tai, metha, estha, entai. And that's the perfect chant. You knew it couldn't be quite that easy. We've got 5 perfect bad boys. And these can be seen in akuo, which becomes
akekoa.
I have heard. At least you've got the perfect K on the back. Then there's
ginomai,
which is always abnormal, and it becomes
gegona.
I have become. Grapho becomes gegrapha. Notice the final kappa got deleted there. Reduplication gives it away though. I have written.
Erkomai,
Always a bad boy. Alelutha. I have come. At least you've got the lambda of the althon in there. Then lambano becomes elepha. I have received. So these are 5 second perfects. Keep your eye open for these. A lot of them you can figure out, though, either from the reduplication or the multiplication of kappas. One verb that goes with the perfect that you got to know is the verb oida. It means I know. And oida is taken as a perfect in form, but it's actually translated as present tense. So, for example, you've got oida, I know, oidas, you know, oiden, he, she, it knows. Oidamen, we know, oidate, you know, and oidasi, they know. So it's perfect in form, but translated as a present tense. So just keep your eyes open for oida. Now the Pluperfect is a rather rare paradigm. I think there's about 86 of these totally in the New Testament. So it's not a big deal, but basically what the Pluperfect is, it's an augmented perfect. So you form the pluperfect by adding an augment onto the front of the perfect form. Instead of adding a ka on the back, a kappa alpha, it uses a kappa epsilon iota form, a K form. And so either the augment on the front or the K form on the back will tell you that this is a pluperfect. They're rather rare. Now I should say that there are a few unaugmented pluperfects. And so you've got to keep this K in the back. We'll often have to trigger it because there will be no augment on the front. So this is used for completed action in the past. It's terminated it and it's over. And we usually use the word had here. Rather than I have given, which would be the perfect, I had given. And so it's translated with the key word had. Now here's how it's formed. You've got an augment on the front, normal epsilon augment. There's a reduplication, the lambda epsilon in the case of luo, reduplication in normal and the perfect. You've got the stem, lu, and then you've got the pluperfect ending, k, and then you've got the nsa, mentasan endings on the back side. The pluperfect is a secondary tense, takes an augment, as does the imperfect and aorist. Its resultant form is eleleukein. And we'll follow this screen with a paradigm of the whole pluperfect with luo so you can get a vision for what it looks like. Here's the pluperfect paradigm of luo. Eleleukein is I had loosed. Eleleukes is you had loosed. Eleleuke, he, she, it had loosed. Eleleukemen is we had loosed. Eleleukete is you had loosed. And eleleukesan is they had loosed. A rare paradigm, but just be aware when you see the kappa, epsilon, iota ending, it's a pluperfect, or when you see an augmented perfect, it's probably a pluperfect. Not a dominant form. I don't want you to memorize this, but just be aware when you see the form that it goes with had. Congratulations. As we finished the nouns and did our first declension, second declension, and third declension nouns, have finished the nouns off, we aren't quite ready to finish the verbs off, but at least we've got the tenses down. We know and can understand all 6 principal parts now. And let's just run through this once again. You have for the 6 principal parts, that's Appendix 4, the present active indicative, agapao. Next, the second form will be the future active indicative, agapeso. The aorist active indicative will be the third form, agapesa. First aorist form with the sa ending. Now our 2 new additions. Our perfect active form is agapeka. Almost like agapesa, only this is agapeka. The eta on the front, you remember, is a reduplication, not an augment. The perfect middle passive, agapemai. And finally, the aorist passive form is agapethane. And these are the 6 principal parts from which all the verb forms will be constructed. So we've got all 6 principal parts now, and this is a major milestone in Greek. So congratulations. Now before we go too far, let's just look at our 7 fan favorites in the perfect stem. Remember Lego, I say? Do you remember it went ballistic in the future? Well, here it is in the perfect. Eureka and euremai, I have said.
Erkomai
is always trouble, and it goes to elelutha. Horao becomes heoraka, I have seen. Akuo, I hear, becomes
Akekoa. Ginomai
becomes gegana and gegenemai.
Ginosko
Becomes agnoka and agnosmai. And grapho becomes gegrapha and gegramai. So those sevens, just be aware there's some major shifts there, almost like the second perfects and second aorist weird forms there, so just be aware of those shifts. And these are fan favorites. Couple examples of how to translate the perfect. Lege auto, nai kuria, ego
Pepistuka hoti su e ho Christos.
It's translated, she said to him. Normal present tense lege. Notice we took it as a historical present. She said rather than she says. Historical present. Again, loose connection, time and tense. Nai kuria. Nai is the word yes. Kuria, vocative form, direct address.
Ego pepistuka
Is I have believed, and there is our perfect tense. It's got the reduplication of the P epsilon on the front. It's got the perfect kappa on the back. That you are the Christ. The second example is kai hemes,
pepistukamen
kai agnokamen,
hoti su e ho hagios tu theou.
and we, explicit hemes pronoun there, we have believed, perfect tense, reduplication on the front, perfect kappa, and have known. Notice this starts with a epsilon rather than a reduplication because it's got a consonant cluster beginning the verb. So its reduplication is an epsilon rather than the normal consonantal reduplication.
Hoti su e
That you are
ho hagios.
of God, that you are the Holy One of God. Both great statements, both use the perfect tense form to highlight or front ground this material. Here's a look at our Chapter 18 vocabulary. The first word is genao, and it means I beget. The second word is
Dikaiosune
and it means righteousness. Our third word is an, and it means if or when. The fourth word is eirene, and it means peace. The fifth word is oida, and it means I know. The sixth word is oikia, and it means house. The seventh word is horao, and it means I see. The eighth word is peripateo, and it means I walk. The ninth word is pos, and it means how. the interrogative question, how. The 10th word is phabeomai, and it means I fear.